welcome everyone to the Jazz Fix and this another Jazz Fix special. And we're very privileged to have our premier jazz guitar player, but also, the busiest guy in the industry in the UK, Nigel Price, is joining us tonight to tell us more about how to pick these tunes up and how all this work suddenly appears. But it doesn't just appear out in the dark, does it, Nigel? You're going to tell us about how you engineer all of that.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, it doesn't just land in your lap. Let's face it. You're not just sort of sitting around at home and then suddenly the phone goes and people want you out on tour. That's just not the way it works. You have to really fight for this stuff. But saying that, if the phone does go, I mean, we spoke about this last time, then it's always potentially part of a tour, especially if it's not in London. Well, I'm presuming we all kind of live in London, but we probably don't. But if it's further up the country, then immediately my very first thought is, where else could I be playing? That's kind of that could kind of hook up with that. So, and just to turn it into something. And the reason being, I realise we're probably sort of be covering a bit of ground from the last time as well. But the reason being is that day-to-day gigs can go pretty much unnoticed. But if you get a tour, then you can do something with that. You can kind of advertise it, and it can really start to look like something quite sort of impressive. And that's not just noticed by the people who want to turn up to the gigs. It's noticed by the promoters, and well, everybody really. And if you become like a bankable option, then
Sorry?
I think someone's just fallen down the stairs. It becomes much more. You become much more of a kind of bankable option, and therefore the phone probably is going to go. So it's that's a very real thing. And this kind of leads on quite nicely from where we left it before, which was it's actually a real shame that some of the people who'd put in their email requests to promoters aren't here today, because I was going to ask if those people had been successful with any subsequent kind of applications. So I was really looking forward to that. I'm very disappointed in them. But so yes, we'll move on from there and just say that they did. Let's say that those kind of emails worked, and it's literally just a case of carrying on exactly from where we left off, which is you just get that first gig in the book, and it's just time to get more in the book. I mean, that's pretty much it, isn't it? I know that sounds really sort of silly and sort of, but again, I kind of think about these things in a very kind of pragmatic way. Basically, what we're doing here is trying to find gigs around the other gigs. I know that seems really, really simple, but it's like, rather than just sort of sending out loads and loads of random emails, we're literally specifically going for dates next to the other dates and literally expanding out. Now, I think you can do it, like, to a certain degree. You can just go like a day apart and just kind of hope for the best, because when push comes to shove, you'll probably find anywhere, to be honest, like, when it gets down to that kind of when it comes down to the wire, you're going to end up wanting to play anywhere. So that's when you find it kind of affects the budget, because when you're more, I don't want to use the word desperate, but well, maybe I do, then the shoe's kind of on the on the other foot, because if a promoter gets in touch with you, then frankly, the money's usually better because they want you. But if you're really, really banging on the door of a promoter, then it's sometimes the sort of money can go down. So and with that in mind, I tend to save the art centres until very last, because art centres can be a bit of a minefield, actually. They're really nice people and everything like that, and they're not doing anything wrong, but they do have to survive. And if you can have a very busy night in an art centre, then you can do really, really, really well. But by the same token, if you have a not so good night in an arts centre, you can really lose some money there, you know, or even just like a sort of medium sort of night, because there's all sorts of expenses there's that might not have been particularly apparent on the contracts, things like the sound man, you know, and there's advertising bills, and there's all sorts of stuff that's built in there. So you have to do really, really, really well with an arts centre.
Before we move on a little
Go
bit
on.
there, Nigel, Nick's come up with a great question there
Go on.
about exclusion zones. You can
Yes.
unmute if you like, Nick.
Yeah.
And
Go
ask
on.
it directly, Nick.
Yeah, go for it.
Are they very common, and you know, to actually find the exclusion zone from a venue?
Yes.
Just
They,
sense.
Yeah, no, they are quite common, and actually written in contracts sometimes. Although contracts, to be honest, I mean, I reckon, like on a tour, you'll get, I mean, out of say 50 dates, you'll probably get about 5 contracts, you know, 5 or 6. But generally, if they're that organised, they do have a problem with you, you know, playing usually within about 30 miles.
Right.
And some really kind of get you know, they don't want anyone within the band to be playing in a different band within 30 miles, but there aren't sort of too many of them. But there are, for the ones where there aren't contracts, then, you know, it's just etiquette, really, isn't it? You know, it would just be silly if you were playing 10 miles down the road, and if it's even vaguely close, I'll always do the decent thing and get in touch with the venue and say, oh look, you know, we're just over here on is it okay if I pursue this? And if they're totally cool with it, then they're totally cool with it. But it sometimes comes down to the personality of a promoter. I would say that most promoters are really, really happy to coexist with other promoters, but there are one or two who are in sort of feel that they're in direct competition. Yeah. And ultimately isn't because they're bad people, you know, at all. I mean, quite the opposite. It's just that they want their club to succeed, and if they feel that, you know, the audience is being nicked by another club, then it's, you know, I mean, I've said this many times before, but some of these places are sort of 2 or 3, you know, bad nights away from closing forever, you know.
Do you find that with festivals as well, clubs?
Festivals, you know, I think if a festival sees that you're on everywhere, then they're probably less likely to put you on. But actually, you know, most festivals aren't particularly near each other, so no one really has that much of a problem with it, you know. But let's just say if you had a really good year on the festivals, then I wouldn't expect to have a good year the next year on the festivals. But it's and these things are usually booked up really far in advance. So yeah, no, I don't think it really makes an awful lot of difference. But the exclusion zones matter within the festivals as well. You know, you've got to watch that. But I mean, back to the etiquette about that. I mean, touring aside, if you're going to want to be knocking on the door of a bigger club, then don't play the pub down the road. You know what I mean? It's just you know, I see people moaning that they aren't getting these gigs sometimes, and it's like, man, you know, at some point you've just got to say, not that you're worth more than that, but you know, if you want some of these bigger things, then you do have to just say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this. And you could, do you know what, you can really potentially upset some people like that, and I have done in the past. There's one place in particular, and I absolutely loved playing there, but I wanted to play in the theatre, you know, just down the road, and it was just, and you know, a little bird told me that I wasn't getting the gig because I kept playing in this pub, you know, again and again. So I just said that I wouldn't do it, you know, and I explained it really nicely and everything, but oh dear, they didn't like that at all. Oh, he's getting too big for his boots now, you know, he's a big shot. And but we did play the theatre in the end, you know, and it was great. It was great. But I don't know, it's just a case of weighing it up, isn't it? You know, do I want to do loads and loads of gigs in the smaller venues, or do I want the, you know, these sort of bigger gigs? I don't know. I can't answer that really, you know. So yes, I kind of feel like I mean, sorry for those who weren't here last time, but of course you can watch it again. So I'm not really going to bang on too much about getting the gigs, because this is we kind of really rinsed that last time, you know. So this time round, but I mean, you know, feel free to to ask more questions about it. But what I really wanted to move on today to talk about was letting people know about these gigs, like about advertising, basically. If we can be in agreement that like touring is well, I mean, obviously it's a great thing because you're out there doing loads of gigs and getting around the country. It's just a brilliant thing to be doing, but it also makes a lot of sense to make the most out of this thing. So if you do have a tour, then you know, make damn sure it's publicized really well. So what do we do? You could you could advertise, shall we say, au natural, which is like using your own social media. I mean, that's, you know, we've all seen it, right? You know, we've all seen the you know, people that are advertising their gigs on social media, and so like once in a while I see a couple of little, you know, situations go, oh, you're always banging on about your gigs, you know. It's like, oh god. Then it can lead to some little situations. So it's a case of deciding how you use your social media. You know, it's obviously a hugely important thing now, and perhaps it's a case of recognizing that, I know this seems obvious again, but we all have a little bubble in which we exist in our kind of social media, and that bubble can be large or it can be quite small. But even with like maybe 5,000 followers, which I haven't got 5,000 followers. I think I've got about 4,600. And of course, I know them all intimately, and they all come around for tea on a Sunday afternoon. But so that's Facebook and Twitter. I think I've got about 2,500 or something like that. Instagram's another, I don't know, whatever, 1.5. So I mean, you top them all up, and you're getting to what, 8,000 or 9,000 people, which is great. I mean, that's fine, but it's still actually quite a small bubble. And a lot of those people are never going to come to your gigs. You know, I mean, A, they might not like you. B, they're musicians. You know, loads of them, loads of my friends are musicians, and they probably wouldn't. You know, they're probably out working anyway. So I was talking to someone about this. They reckoned that you could get a kind of interest, like a proper amount of interest, something between 2 and 3% of your followers. So I mean, I can't even figure that out. I mean, someone with a calculator probably could, but it's only a few hundred, like within a few thousand, like that. So it's just a case of, you know, trying to increase the reach. It's all about reach, you know. So what do we do? I mean, we're trying to avoid spending money here, I suppose. I mean, that's what I'm talking about first and foremost. Although that's, I'm sure, you know, by the end of this, we'll see that it's pretty impossible to do that if you're going to do a really good, you know, good job. The way to increase your reach, I would say, in a very natural way, is about the style in which you use your social media, and I don't actually feel really very comfortable about talking like this, because I don't use people on social media. I genuinely enjoy it. You know, I love staying in touch with human beings and all my mates. It's a way of having a laugh without actually having to leave the house, I suppose, or whatever. And we do have a scream on there. So, and then you get other people who use it in a different way. They just think, okay, I hate Facebook, you know, I hate all that, but I'm going to advertise my gigs on there. And those people that advertise their gigs on Facebook without really engaging at any other time with people get virtually no success with people turning up to their gigs or reacting or anything like that. And those people are probably thinking, well, what's the point? You know, Facebook doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You know, what's the point? So, but if they handled it in a kind of different way, then maybe it could work. And I might, at the risk of again of repeating myself, from the very first meeting we had. I remember when we played the Phoenix in Exeter, and it was an art centre, and it was one of these ones in it. You know, you got to pay the sound man, you got to pay the paying the band, and of course we're staying out, so that there's the accommodation, there's the fuel, and all this sort of thing. So I basically stood to lose £1,200 or something on this thing, and the day before the gig we'd sold 4 tickets, and I was like, oh god, oh no, this is just awful, this is an absolute, you know, it's going to break the bank. So I managed to do this. I mean, basically you can put like a shout for help out, maybe, I don't know, twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year possibly, or maybe even once a year, but this is what I did. Hopefully I'll be able to find this. Now this is okay, I remember, yeah, this was in 2016. Can we all see that? Hopefully you can see that. If you can't, I'll just read it out. Perhaps it's time to be brutally honest and put out a plea for help. There's always one gig on a tour that's a bit touch and go. We're playing the Phoenix and ticket sales are slow. 4 sold as of now. I struggled to find somewhere. A little bit of a sort of backstory. Stood to lose. Oh, it was 1,300 quid I stood to lose. And just, I don't know. It was just a sort of bit of a cry for help, really. You know, if you live in the area and you're going to see just one jazz gig this year, then please make it this one. And if you know anybody down here, then please let them know. Your help would be most appreciated. So, I mean, one thing led to another, and I really feel like it was because of, you know, the fact that I kind of you know, had that sort of engagement with people, that people really got behind that. They sort of, you know, they kind of feel like they sort of know you a little bit, and 24 hours later, I'll keep a long story short, but we ended up selling out the gig, and on the night, this is during the break actually, I asked all the people in the place if they'd mind having a photo taken, and there we are. It's so that was great. I mean, that was really one of the great nights.
Can I ask you, Nigel?
Go on.
Yeah, because social media is it's a tricky old thing, isn't it? And I know that you're quite a political animal, and you like to express your opinions.
Yes.
How careful do you have to be with all of that, do you think, to not, you know, or do you just think, well, that's me, take it or leave it?
Well, you know, I mean, obviously, if you're going to spend all your time upsetting people, then it's not great, is it? But I mean, I never talk about politics or gigs or anything like that. It's, you know, it's just, you know, I don't know. It's I'm always up for a discussion, even if people don't agree with me. But I mean, yeah, okay, I'm a socialist, all right. What are you going to do about it? But it's, you know, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think everybody kind of knows that kind of thing, and actually, I think a lot of jazz fans and jazz musicians together are quite a sort of distinct political animal in themselves. But there's always that thing. Oh, I'm going to go and see him. He's a bleeding socialist, you know.
Well, actually, you know, that's fine. You know, that's fine. You know, if they really hate,
calls, but
if they really hate me that much, I don't want them there anyway. But you know, I guess it just all sifts itself out. It all sorts itself out, doesn't it? You know, in the end, I guess. Anyway, so I just think that's a thing. You know, you know, it really is. It's and. But at the same time, I was mulling this over earlier on. You know, it doesn't mean you have to be false. You know, it's in a way, it's exactly the same as touring. You know, like some people don't like touring and they don't go on tour. You know, some people like engaging on Facebook and some people don't. And it's you know, if you don't like it, then don't do it. But if you do like it, I'm just saying it's not a bad thing. You know, to, like, for instance, share other people's stuff, you know, like feel this is the socialist in me talking, you know, like help other people, you know, it counts for so much. And, you know, people don't forget that. when you've, you know, when like, you know, when someone else is in trouble and you're like, oh, you know, what about this? And, you know, go and see this, or buy that person's album, or whatever. You know, I think it counts for a lot, and people do return the favors, and all of the time. Again, it's about the reach, so it goes beyond your reach and it goes to their reach, which is a slightly overlapping bubble, you know, in this sort of Venn diagram. So anyway, I mean, that I found that a little bit awkward to talk about almost, because at least if you're paying for advertising, then you don't have to sort of you know, try and manipulate people, and it's you know, it's kind of easier in a way, I guess. But of course, within social media, there is also paid advertising. Now, apparently you can pay for advertising on Instagram. I've never done that, and I think part of the reason for that, I don't know if Instagram goes here. I mean, personally, I don't really know how it works, but I mean, I kind of do. You know, it's all about pictures and videos and stuff like that, isn't it? But there's a fundamental thing on Instagram, is that you can't click on any links. You know, you can only click on links within people's like profiles. So, you know, it's not a very quick thing to do. It doesn't feel like a very good place to advertise somehow, because it's not, you know, you're asking people to click and click and click and click to find out, you know, about whatever you're talking about. It's more of a just sort of, seems like more of a social sort of fun thing, if you ask me. By the same token, Twitter, you can also pay for sponsored adverts on Twitter, but let's face it, you know, you don't see touring musicians advertising on Twitter. You just don't see it, and I just don't think it's the right thing to do. But out of, I mean, I would say these are the big three: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I mean, Facebook's the big one. You know, for all they say, oh, it's dying out and all that, it isn't. You know, there's, I don't know how many billion users in the world. So you can actually use this. If you feel awkward about kind of hassling people on your Facebook, you can start your artist page. You can start an artist page, and therefore people that like your artist page have no they shouldn't have any qualms about you sort of telling them about stuff, you know, and telling them about gigs. I mean, that's what it's there for. So it's absolutely fine. So you're sort of preaching to the converted when you use your artist page. But also the advertising can only work with an artist page. You can't use it on a personal account. So that's my normal page, and here's my artist page. Here we are. Lovely. So, all right. So over here, I only put up. Oh, there's tonight's event. Look, I only put up business things. You know what I mean, like gigs and tours and stuff like that. So if you've got something to shout about and you want to break outside of your bubble, my 8,000 strong bubble, then you can sponsor a post, and you just go like this. I'm hoping that there are people that have never seen this before. It'll be interesting to know if you haven't seen this before, then then let me know. Okay, so I'm about to boost a post. Whatever this one was. What was this one? Oh yeah, it was a review of my album. Okay, so let's just say that this is related to a tour. Let's say this could have been a tour poster or a very specific gig. You know, this could have been our gig in, I don't know, whatever, Shrewsbury, let's say. So you can actually dive right in here, and you can choose who this gig is going to go to. Let's just say for one night only, ladies and gentlemen, we want to hit Shrewsbury. So let me just get rid of these for a second. I'll do that in a minute. Okay, so make sure you choose the right Shrewsbury. So here we are, Shropshire. I mean, check this out. You can choose the area that you want to advertise in, and this is going to people in Facebook who are based in this area. You know, you can go, you know, as large or small as you like. Let's just say 20 kilometers around Shrewsbury. Okay. And let's have a look at, so we save that audience. Let's edit it once more. Detailed targeting. Add people who match at least one of the following. Oh, let's have a little browse. What can we look at? Okay, so interests. What are they interested in? I mean, obviously, we'd like them to be interested in jazz music. Specifically, sorry, get rid of that. What about jazz guitar? Is that up there? Jazz guitar. Good Lord, here we go. We've got Hammond organ with us as well. Is a Hammond organ up there? Richard Hammond. No, there's no Hammond organ. No one's interested in Hammond organ, never mind. But we've got tenor saxophone with us. So tenor saxophone. And of course we've got drummer too. Jazz drumming. Fine, that'll do. Okay. Right. So we've got the area around Shropshire, 20 miles. And you can actually like schedule how like when you're going to do this. But I've never actually done that. I've only ever done this sort of, right on the just as we're going to do it. It can take up to 24 hours to kick in, but it never does actually. Okay, so save audience. Then we come down here. How much are you going to put in? And it shows you here. Okay, let's just say, I don't know. Let's just say we're gonna be playing there on the 5th of July or whatever. No, sorry. Yeah, why not? 4th of July. That'll do to save messing around. So we're going to be advertising for 5 days, and you can see that if we put $5 in, it's always in dollars, then it's going to reach that many people, and you can basically just inch it up, depending on how successful you want it to be and what your advertising budget is. I'm not spending $1,000 on this one, and let me tell you. But there we are. For God's sake, don't let me accidentally click on Boost Post now, because there's no way back once you've done that. Oh, look, it says it's going to place on Facebook and Instagram as well. So maybe I don't want it on Instagram, because, like I said before, it's gonna, there's no kind of clicks there. Okay, so there we are. I mean, I could potentially do that. Right. So that's that.
So, Nigel, just tell us
Yes.
how much impetus is on you to do the advertising for your gig rather than the venue themselves.
Some musicians would argue that it's your job is not to do the advertising. That isn't your job, and I completely respect that. But then maybe what we're talking about here, and then, I mean, there's nothing like this feeling that you might have an advertising budget from the Arts Council. In other words, someone's giving you money to advertise your gigs, and let me tell you that advertising on Facebook when it's not your money feels just fine. You know what I mean? It feels absolutely fine. Although I have used my own money in the past. I used my own money today to try and boost interest in my album, but it's a gamble. It is a gamble. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Do you get any feedback from Facebook to say that you've reached this many people?
Yes.
Do you get...
Yes. Would you like me to show you that?
Yeah, and I'd be rather interested to know how effective it is. I mean, would they just sort of, they say they're going to reach 4,000 people that are all jazz drummers and guitar players, but do they?
Let me have a look here. So, ad center. Oh, Nigel Price spent $61 in the last whatever days. All right, okay. Oh, there's an ad that wasn't delivering properly. Let's just say, I mean, you can see a kind of rundown of my adverts here. And let me go back a little bit and look at this. God, I've spent some money with these people. I hope what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg's happy with me. This is a tour, isn't it? This one. Here we go. View results. So yes, they absolutely do tell you, and they actually, you can see here, it tells you how much it cost you for each engagement, whatever engagement means. I mean, that's kind of someone who was vaguely interested in it, I suppose. So 2,686 reach 39,430 people. It's yeah. So there it all is. Look, there's the demographic it hit. For some reason, the jazz only seems to really make a big impact with older men. And who'd have thought? Anyway, okay. So
Yeah, and there's also the clicks as well, which is down there, which is considering you've got like 2,000 odd punters you've reached there, 36 clicks only.
where was the clicks?
If you just above see get started, keep going up, and then you've got link clicks there.
Link clicks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So and you've got.
So am I satisfied with this ad? Well, yeah, right then. Okay. Right. Stop share. Yeah. So they actually give you a kind of rundown as well, which is interesting. So you know, sometimes you can get these ads together and you can think this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. So you get the ad together and you boost the post, and then it's just awful. And then you go, oh God, you know, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have said that. So what you can actually do is just put up a post on your artist page, and some of them just resound with people, and you know, you almost can't. It's not like you can't predict it, but there's sometimes just like the order of the words, or maybe it's shorter, or for some reason it has more impact, or it tugs on people's heartstrings or something. But and it'll often tell you, it will say, this post is getting more engagement than 95% of the other posts on this page. Would you like to boost it? And invariably, because all my friends are normal and all my fans are normal, they behave like normal human beings. So you can say that if you boost that post, it's going to have the same effect around the country or the world. In fact, you can set that zone just as a completely, you know, international thing. So that's a way of really boosting the reach, you know, and but not just boosting the reach. I mean, as you've seen, you can literally zoom in. You can virtually get on a street. You know, you can actually pick the person you want to come to your gig, and zap him with Facebook. It's pretty dark, actually, isn't it? You know, it's almost sort of terrifying, you know. And I mean, I don't want to get too political about it, but you can actually target people via their political persuasion as well. You know, you can say virtually what you like in there. You know, pick sort of who you like, but it's there. It is there, and it exists. So there's that. The other thing is advertising in magazines, and this is. Let me check this out. Okay, I'll share the screen again. Obviously, we're going to look at some sort of fairly regular sort of jazz magazines. Let's look at the first one. The biggest magazine that we have in the jazz magazine that we have in the country is Jazzwise. Here's their rate card, and it's you could say that that's fairly eye-watering, if you like. You know, this is how much it costs. So an entire color page is going to cost you 1,650 quid. Really? Oh my God. So of course we're looking down. Okay, I think I'll make it a half page, black and white, you know, but it's still 800 quid. You know, this is, we're starting to talk about a lot of money here. So that's the biggest magazine. I can't remember what the readership is, but it's a lot. I mean, I think it's like 25,000 or something like that. But it's a case of deciding. It's a case of deciding who you want to hit with this, because if you advertise in Jazzwise, you're hitting the entire country all at once. So you know, obviously you're not going to be advertising just your gig in Shrewsbury in Jazzwise, because it's pointless. You know, okay, the people those people who get Jazzwise in Shrewsbury are going to see it, but the people who live in St Ives ain't coming to your gig. You know, no matter how much they want to go and see you, they're not going. So, in other words, advertising like a poster, like getting a tour poster together, it's just really, really, that's the kind of thing that you want to put in there. But at the same time, you've got to ask yourself, who is this for? Is this for, you know, is it just to show the world in general that you know, we exist, we're on the map? Is it to show off to my friends? is it some kind of pecking order thing with the musicians? You know, like when you let me share this again. You know, when you when you share something like this. No, here's the 2014 tour, for instance. You see that? I mean, it's like that was in Jazzwise, you know, and it's like boom, boom, you know, there's a 40-date tour, you know, and it's really, it kind of just sort of, you know, it's like dropping a sort of nuclear missile. There's the 2018 one. Or is the, you know, is the impact sort of multifaceted? So now promoters are looking at this and going, wow, do you know what I mean? This is a major event, and also all of those venues are being advertised nationally, you know. It's just I don't know, it's just like a big event, you know. It becomes a really big event, and you know, you can use this to kind of tempt, I think that's probably the best word to use, like tempt a promoter into giving you a gig. You know, I mean, you can even say in your gig request, by the way, I've got an advertising budget here, you know, and so, you know, this is going to be really good for your advertising. And ultimately, a promoter wants one thing, aside from great jazz, they want people to turn up. And if you can say, listen, you know, people are going to turn up because there's thousands of pounds being put into this. And it really is thousands of pounds. On the 2016 tour, in the Arts Council budget, which I got, actually, my advertising budget was £9,000. It was £9,000 just for the advertising, and they went for it, you know. And so it's and that's how I could kind of afford to do all this stuff. But you know, you've got to make no bones about it. I mean, I realise I've started to talk about the Arts Council forms here, but I mean, it's pretty clear that we do need funding. So, I mean, this is basically what we're working towards. But that's a huge part of the Arts Council, and it's an area that a lot of applications fall down on. They'll say public engagement, and they'll drive that home every single time. Public engagement. We want the public to know about this. How are you going to tell the public about it? And unless you throw some time, effort, and money at that, then you ain't going to get the grant anyway. So it was bold. I mean, that one was bold, but I mean, every single time that I've filled in an application, it's been big, you know, the whole advertising side of it. But of course, without that money, you can't do it anyway, unless you're, I don't know, unless you just won the lottery, in which case you wouldn't want to be playing jazz anyway. You'd just be wanting to to move to Monaco or whatever. Okay, so that's advertising. I found in the past that I've started to worry about the impact of advertising. You know, I mean, if you look at jazz, I'm not saying I'd put anyone off advertising Jazzwise, but as I say, that's a national thing. So if you literally want people to come to one particular gig, I feel like Facebook advertising, really, really targeted advertising is much better. Or the other thing you could do, if you want something in print, is look at the local papers. Old school, you know. Some places still have local papers. I was looking at one earlier on. Let's just have a look at this. Here we go. The Yorkshire Evening Post. Here we go. So you literally get in touch with them, find out where the local paper is, and there you go. Zoom down. Display recruitment, public, private advertising. Here we go. Features and events. There's a phone number. There's an email. You know. So if you've got an advertising budget, then a kind of rough estimate, this could cost you £50 to £100 to put something in the local paper. And I'll be honest, I think it's worth doing. I mean, especially if it's not your money, I mean, it isn't much of a gamble. But but that's something that the Arts Council would, love to see, that you're actually really pushing, to actually get the people into your gig. It's a very, very important thing. Right. Now, there are other things, and we were talking about this last time, how video is king, because people don't really want to read. I mean, some people do, but a lot of people just can't be bothered with it all. They'd much rather just press play and just sort of let the images do the work. And there are some very specific things that we need to think about if we're doing this. Moving back to say Facebook, there's no real limit on a Facebook video or how long it's going to be. So that's fine, to whatever sort of promo video you've got together is going to be fine there. And you can also share a YouTube link. Now on Facebook, that will invariably pop up with a kind of thumbnail and that sort of thing. But I have to tell you, and this is something that I've only learned recently. Facebook don't like it when people are being asked to leave the site. That isn't what they want. And I'm told that the logarithms don't really work that way. So there's potentially isn't going to sort of pop up on people's feeds as much. But if you actually put the physical video on, then it's more successful. It's more successful, should I say? Okay, so there's no limits on Facebook, but there is a limit on Twitter. If you try and put a video on Twitter, you've got 140 seconds or 2 minutes 20 seconds, and that's it. So you've got to decide what you're going to do. If you've got a 6-minute version, rather than decide how much of the 6 minutes you're going to use, you just got to make the video shorter. And it is, it's all quite sort of time consuming, but so I think it's worth thinking about at the same time that if you're also using Instagram, there's kind of no limit if you want to put it on IGTV, in Instagram TV. But then that's another click for someone, if they want to continue watching the video. So why not? I'm suggesting, because the Instagram video time limit before it has to go onto this Instagram TV or IGTV thing is 1 minute. So why don't you just make a 1 minute video, and then you can use that same video on Twitter as well, and you've just saved yourself a whole load of work, and also people just don't really engage for that long. It's actually quite shocking how short people's attention spans are. I don't think I actually got to this last time, so I might just show you this. So if we go to YouTube, for instance, you can go to your video analytics of something. Now just look at this. This is average percent viewed. I mean, you just look at it go down. I mean, this is, where are we here? Average view duration 2 minutes 6 seconds, which is, and this video is not particularly long, but that's not as long as a Twitter video anyway. We could probably find another one. Oh right, okay. So this is what I've done. You can see this one, Kariba. So here's the full version. Where's the analytics? I can't see the analytics. Here we go. Yeah. Sorry, you should be doing this, Tony. Here we go. Average view duration 2 minutes 57 seconds. I mean, some people have seen it out to the bitter end, but most of them are out here. It's not even halfway through. So this is the other thing that I've done. Kariba, first minute. It's actually 1 minute 27. 1 minute 27 long. Analytics. There you go. Average view duration 1 minute 7. So as a percentage of it, people are actually watching a lot more of it. They haven't been bored by it, which is, I think that's quite a valuable thing, if people have kind of had enough of something, you know, it's like if you choose to sort of end something, it's like, okay, yeah, I've seen that. And but if you just sort of give someone enough that's like, yeah, look at this, they're like, wow, that was amazing, you know. And so it's just a case of like recognizing people's like a human being's attention span, you know what I mean?
Well, there is that. I think you see, don't you? First of all, you see how long the video is when you click on it.
That's true.
So if you see that it's 2 minutes, then I think people, you know, they might think, "Oh, just grab some of this." But if it's
Yes.
a 4 minute and they haven't got time, then they probably don't bottle out, or it depends when your guitar solo finishes. Have you ever thought
Well,
about
yeah,
that?
there is that. There is that.
There's also a question from Nick about talking about features in local papers and radio.
Go on.
Which we're
Go on.
probably going to get to, but
I was just wondering about, because like advertising budgets, which is basically
Yes.
you've been talking about, and I thought the Facebook actually targeted marketing is a fantastic idea. But I was just wondering if you contact local papers in the area, because I mean the Yorkshire Post actually is a bigger paper than the Evening Standard, so it's
Sure.
it's sort of like in a way it's not like a real, you know, if you're doing local venues, it's not
Yeah.
a real local paper. Yeah, do you phone them up and say, look, we're doing a gig, and you know, do you want to do an interview or offer them a feature or something like that, or is that going too far? Or
It's just a question of time, really.
Yeah.
I mean, bear in mind some of these tools I've got together. Like if you've got 40 dates, you know, can you imagine what a time vampire that is?
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's almost quicker just to get someone to get a graphic together, send the email, pay the money, put it in the paper. You know what I mean? Or just send them a listing. And I have sort of chased some radio stations before, and they're actually usually quite cool about it, because they kind of, you know, they love to have content, you know, maybe more so than a local paper would, but you know, you just never know who you're going to get, because it like some reporters are just really real live wires, and you know, and they'll chase you down, you know, oh yeah, let's do an interview, and invariably they're really nice people, and really keen, you know.
Yeah.
So
I suppose
I don't
in
really
this age
chase
of
it.
Zoom, I suppose in this age of Zoom, you can actually do that. You know, you could actually save time in a
Yeah.
way, because you can do those interviews there. But how far in advance were you doing your Facebook advertising for gigs? Because that's a lead time. What lead time do you?
I've never scheduled one, so I've never, you know, I guess if I was a bit more organized I probably would, but it's literally I get worried that they aren't going to start the advertising in time, so and the minimum amount of time is 24 hours, so sometimes I'll just go, right, the afternoon before the gig, I'll just do it then, like knowing that it's probably going to take a few hours to pick up, and then it's just going to literally, I mean personally, when I'm going to a gig, I probably won't decide to go until the day, just in case something else happens. You know what I mean? I'm one of these last minute just rock up sort of people, so I'd rather just have it just a day or two in advance, because everyone's seen it. Well, not everyone's seen it, but you know, oh, of course, there's the posters and the flyers and that sort of thing too,
Yeah.
which not all musicians do, because it can be a bit of a pain, you know, and then posting them all out and that. But I pretty much always do that, which can really annoy you actually sometimes, because you know, you can turn up. So we're sort of getting off the subject there a little bit, but you can turn up to like a venue and you're like, where are the bloody posters? You know what I mean? I've gone to the trouble of having these printed and printed out, and I'm putting them in an envelope and I've sent them to you. Where are the posters? You know what I mean? Oh yeah, sorry, they're at the back. But they should have been up for one. But you can't fall out with the promoter. It's just you just do what you can, you know. But and some people will say, don't bother with the local papers. I remember St Ives Jazz Club said that to me. Yeah, no, we've been trying them for years. It doesn't make any difference. Don't bother. But I actually did do it anyway one time. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to do any harm. I mean, I know if I saw something in the local paper, you know, thumbing through, and oh, look at that! Oh, so and so's playing just down a playhouse. You know, I might go. You know what I mean? I might do.
I was just trying to think of how to do something strategically. If you had like almost like a template of how to approach it to do, instead of like a scattergun of everything, you know. So I mean, as you said, like the national mags are a scattergun approach. Really, they're not going to, you know, they could give you a venue some kudos and you, but really, it's not necessarily going to put bums on seats, is it? So
No, well, yeah, it's exactly. I mean, like I said, it's a very multi sort of faceted way of looking at it. But it, one of the other things that going into the big magazines does is it just makes it look like you're more of
yeah,
an
professional.
entity. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
more of a big fish, I guess. But I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both right.
So you put all of this, like you said, about 9,000 quid for your last big tour. You put that in your Arts Council bid. Do you mention this to promoters that you're going to have
Yeah, absolutely,
when
absolutely.
you're applying for gigs for them? You say, look, I'm going to
Yeah,
apply.
absolutely. And I could probably dig out an email. That would be a little bit data protection, wouldn't it? But I've actually said that. We've got a massive advertising budget. And I can pay to put it in the local paper, as well as it being in the nationals, and targeted Facebook advertising for your gig.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a no-brainer in a way. It's like, okay, so the band are going to turn up. Okay, you've got to pay the band, but you don't have to pay for the hotels and all that sort of thing. And we're gonna shove 200 quid into your advertising budget, which is for a lot of venues, it's just something that they don't do. They just don't do it. And it can be really exciting for. I don't want to sound patronising, but it can be really quite exciting and inspirational for a promoter, because that's the sort of stuff that they're not going to do themselves. It's like, you know what I mean?
You should if you're putting the effort in as well, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it is this chicken and egg question, though, of applying for funding before you actually got the gigs, or get the gigs and apply for funding. That's the So if I presume it's the latter.
Yeah.
So you're saying to them up front, we are going to apply for funding to help this with this tour as well.
Yeah.
When you're actually applying for gigs. So
and you have to apply for the gigs first before you apply for the funding.
Yeah.
And it's nervy. It's nervy as hell. And I mentioned this last time, but I haven't always been successful. I've failed more times than a lot of people know, and it's absolutely devastating.
17%,
devastating,
isn't it? 17% success rate on the Arts Council.
Oh, is it? Right. Okay. Well, yeah. I, as a whole, I guess, yeah. But then I guess you've just got to be. I mean, I've probably had more than a 17% success rate. But then
I have been told by them, because of my organisation. I'm from the classical side, actually.
Right.
So
okay.
Actually learning lots of things. I run this group called Symphonic Brass of London. So you can Twitter, search away on Google, whatever. But my conversations with the Arts Council, because I do a lot of education projects, is it's building up a relationship with them. Once they can see that you can actually manage a project,
that's true,
and then they'll actually give you more assistance later on.
Absolutely, it's an investment. It's an investment for them, and if they can see that you're doing really good things, then they are actually more likely to. Well, so I'm told. It's anecdotally that once you've had it once, then you're more likely to get it again. Yeah, absolutely, which is a good thing to hear, I suppose. Yeah, good.
Thank you. Sorry to just
no. This is exactly why I'm here. It's fine. So the more questions the better. Otherwise, I'm going to sit here piffling on.
Full away.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm not going to go on really too much tonight. I mean, is it? We're not going to turn this into a sort of Ben-Hur epic like I think the last one was a little bit. Just to finish off about that, putting the videos up. Of course, the temptation is like, oh right, so I'm advertising this, and it's on my YouTube channel. Therefore, more people are going to watch my YouTube channel. Therefore, I'm going to get closer to the magic 1,000 subscribers, and therefore I can monetize my account. I don't think you need to worry about that. Let's face it. If you've actually looked into what that actually means, you might make about 5 quid over a year. If you've got 1,000 subscribers, it's pitiful. So there's no point, opting for the sort of video link over the video. But I mean, whatever, fill your boots. There's one thing that's worth mentioning here, and this is something shamefully that I only really managed to get together over the sort of lockdown, partly because I'd only that was the only time I had to really think about it all. But I just thought, okay, so I've got Facebook and I've got Twitter and I've got Instagram and I've got my website and I've got Bandcamp and I've got and I thought, do you know what? I haven't got all of these websites in one place. I just haven't got them all in one place. And how's that happened? And if you see like you know, a really kind of professional sort of outfit, they have them. You know, it's like, oh, you can get my stuff here, and they sort of list them all. And it's like, it's so obvious, isn't it? You know, just get it together. And I'm not sure if you noticed on that last thing. I'm just going to share the screen again. Here's the text. Okay, I finally managed to do it. Look at all this. Website, Patreon, Bandcamp, YouTube, streaming, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all in one place, you know. And I know it sounds really obvious, but that's just such a good thing to do, because people like to consume you, you know, or consume your I don't want to say products, I hate that word, but they want to consume you as a product in a certain way. Now someone put me onto this, which I'd never heard of. It's a thing called Linktree. Now this is just a very, very easy thing, and this works really well for Instagram as well, because if you you only get one link in Instagram. So if you put this in your profile, this is what you get. So basically you just go to this Linktree site and then you put in all of your links, and they're all there in one place, but you only ever have to use this, just that. So it's a way of cutting down text in Twitter and everywhere, and also using it in Instagram. So that's just a sort of word from the wise, or maybe not the wise. Yes, we're basically talking about getting organized here, really. Now this is the way I also used to organize myself. Paper. You just reams and reams of paper. I mean, this is just insane. And it's you know, there's this is 2014 tour, all the venues, and then, you know, I end up using the same sheet. Oh no, you can't even see this, but to mark when I've emailed them, to mark you know, like the dates of when I wonder if I could show you that actually. Can you see that if I showed that? You know, I mean, it's really, really kind of, you know, back of the envelope kind of stuff. And if you're not careful, this stuff can just end up everywhere. And it is everywhere. I mean, I've got, I don't think I've ever thrown anything away. There's calendars full of dates, you know, and it's just an absolute mess. Look, let me show you this one. Sorry about this, I'm pressure. But that's one of my kind of touring calendars, you know. It's just a complete, just like scrawling mess. It worked, all right, you know. I'm not knocking it that badly, because it kind of worked. But then I found someone in my life who saw what I was doing and just said, no, there's got to be another way, right? And they introduced me to the online document, which this is really boring now. I bet Valerie's long gone. We've bored her senseless. But okay, so check this out. I'm going to try and do a little bit of data protection here, just because it's the right thing to do. I had a lady, and in fact, it's her name's Elaine Crouch, and she works for a company called well, her company is called Buy Some Time, and she just said, look, just kind of sort this out, basically. Right, so here we go. This is the 2016 tour. Everything is it's my data protection. I should be covering up everyone's names. But okay, so here's all the venues, all the postcodes, all the websites, and I've also got the promoters' names and numbers and emails. I've got whether it was a quartet, whether the advertising, the posters have been sent, you know, any kind of extra information or whatever, and everything is just in one place. And it's also a shared document, and so whenever she was working on it, you know, if I ever change something, then it should, you know, it changes for her as well. I mean, this is the biggest tour ever, and I know it's absolutely ridiculous to look at it. But I mean, I'm kind of marveling at it as well. But you can see, I mean, how organised is that? It's just ridiculous. And once it's all in one place as well, it's like, okay, I fancy, you know, going back to that place. Is it still going? Let's have a look at the Jazz Cafe Posk. I want to go back there. In fact, I do want to go back there. It's there in the document. You're on it. Gig guide. Are they up and running yet? You know, no, which is a shame. But that's, I'm sure you agree that this is really something. You know, it seems like a real pain to actually get it together. And I mean, you've literally got to enter everything, go to each website, copy all the you know, URLs and everything like that. But it's that's organization, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous. If obviously the bigger the tour, then the kind of handier that is. Just organization, it just makes your life kind of so much easier, and just makes everything feel like it's just running a bit smoother, and it actually exists rather than having just reams of paper just sort of hanging around. Right, okay, well, what else have I got here? I'm not sure that I've got an awful lot more to say. I mean, on the sort of logistics, advertising, and social media. I mean, maybe I haven't really covered the logistics so much, but the only reason I was really going to cover that is just to make it absolutely clear that we do need funding, and there's absolutely no way that we can do this without funding. There just isn't a way, unless obviously, as I said, you're loaded, or you're related to your band, or something like that. It just can't happen. I'll tell you now that I mean, I pay my guys 200 quid each for a gig. That's what I do, you know, and it's not a fortune, and some people wouldn't get out of bed for that. But in the jazz world, that's kind of okay. You know, that's absolutely fine with me. If someone calls me and offers me 200 quid, I'm going to go and do the gig. So that's everything paid for. That's hotels paid for. That's all travel expenses and a hot meal, or a meal. So you just got to toss it up. I go out with a quartet. I'm going to include me in this, so that's 800 quid for the band. We're all staying in a hotel. We are not sharing hotel rooms because we are sick of each other. You know, we've spent enough time with each other as it is. We just need to lay in the crying room, you know, overnight. So, you know, how much are you going to pay for a hotel? 50 quid? Nah, maybe can get something all right for that. 75 quid, maybe. So if it's 75, we're talking about 300 quid here. So now we're on 1,100, and now we've got to get where we're going. How much is that going to cost? I'll tell you what, if you've got a Hammond organ in the back of a van, the miles per gallon isn't great, you know. So what are we talking about? I don't know, another 100 quid for the sort of petrol, you know. So that's 1,400. Advertising next, you know, if we sort of spread that advertising budget over all the gigs, what we on a gig, couple of 100 quid for the advertising, so that's 1,600. You know, this is not cheap at all. And I will tell you right now that there is no venue, not one venue in the country on the jazz scene that can cover that cost. They don't exist. They just don't exist. You know, I mean, if you're higher up this kind of echelons, and you're playing theatres and stuff like that, and it's a big production and tickets cost a lot, then yeah, you can do all this stuff without Arts Council help. But the rest of us, there's absolutely no way that you can cover this. No way. You know, I mean, I reckon there's probably 3, maybe 4 venues in the UK that could just cover the wages, and that's just the way it is. So it's no slur. It's no slur on the venues. That's just the way it is. It's we could have a conversation about, you know, where the money's going, and how maybe you know, a lot does tend to head towards opera, but it's out of my remit, you know. But there's not an awful lot of money in jazz, so we do need funding. So that's pretty much the only reason that I was going to talk about logistics. But So yeah, I guess that's kind of covered that. So yeah, anyone got any burning questions that they want to ask me? No.
Could I ask a question, Nigel?
Of course you can, Samuel. Hello, I didn't realise you were here.
Well, firstly, thank you. It's been great as always.
Thank you. I know it's not quite as fun as the last one, but it's because that was fun ripping into people's emails. But no, go on. You talk.
Well, the question I've got, Nigel, is let's say you've got your 30, 40 day tour.
Yes.
Were you in a position where you didn't have an Arts Council grant? Would you still put that sort of money into advertising from your own personal account?
Well, no, there's absolutely no way that I could do it. It's it's a kind of emergency situation then, you know. I mean, it just is. It's yeah, I mean, let's face it, that's the first thing to go, which is really unfortunate. But it's not 100% essential. I mean, well, I mean, I say that, I mean, it's essential in the sense that although people might not want to really sort of spend that much money on advertising, you never really know what you're getting out of it, because it's impossible to know, isn't it? You know, it's okay, yeah, the gig went well, but if I'd advertised it, it could have been sold out. Or did I need to put that amount of advertising? You will never know, which is maybe partly the secret of the advertiser's success. But if you do sell out that venue, you will be going back there, you know. So, but I wouldn't pay for it out of my own pocket. I mean, I couldn't look Bianca in the eye and say, darling, we won't be going on holiday this year because I spent my money on advertising. You know, that, I mean, that's just not a thing, you know. It's just, it can't happen. So no, I mean, it's the first thing to go. But I mean, I was going to kind of talk about that in episode 4, you know, about the sort of whole emergency situation, because there's quite a lot to talk about there. You know, I only want to talk about success for a while before we talk about failure. But yeah, but no is the answer. Although I mean, there was one time the world's greatest baritone saxophone player, jazz player, came over, Gary Smullian, and we were his backing band, and I went for an Arts Council grant, and we did not get it. And luckily it wasn't a huge tour. It was like 13 dates, and me and the drummer who'd put the tour together, you know, we had to make some pretty tricky decisions, you know, about what was going on. And he wasn't mad keen on me putting any money into advertising, and I was like, man, you know, we've got to do something, you know, because that's almost like the worst. No, it isn't the worst thing, but if you're going out and doing these tours and no one knows about it, it's like, man, you know, it's just a shame. You know, it's not a disaster, it's not the end of the world, but you know, if you've got something like that going on, do you really want someone to know about it? Because it's a big chunk of your life, you know. I mean, for me, I only tour once every 2 years. I mean, that's how much a massive kind of big deal it is, you know. And for that time, you know, it's a huge thing, and I want people to know about it, and it is worth doing. So we actually did take money out of our own wages and pay for advertising, and you know, there was, I don't think I think he was a little bit annoyed with me about that, but ultimately I think it was probably the right thing to do. But again, we'll kind of never know, I suppose. So I've just contradicted myself, haven't I? I said no, and then I did it. but I wouldn't put the same money in. You know, I wouldn't be taking out loans and spending 9,000 quid. You know. So,
related to that, may I ask us a similar question about,
of course,
about venues? Because
go ahead.
I imagine it's different for different genres, but do you tend to, how can I put it? Do you tend to have a kind of a rough percentage idea in your head of what venues do you want on your set of tour dates, where it's essentially you're being paid to turn up, and it's all contained within the venue, and then there's essentially the ones where you hire the stage, and it's a bit of a risk.
Yes, those art centres. Well, I mean, you know, we've had some great gigs in art centres. There's no doubt about that, but it's always a bit nervy. It is nervy, and they say that you should work on 60% capacity. That's what you should expect. And so when you're filling in your, although it's, you know, this isn't all about the Arts Council form, but just in general, you should budget for, this is going to be 60% full. Anything more than that is a kind of bonus. But I mean, you'll find, I mean, I'm sure you found in the past with an arts centre, if you don't hit 60%, then you can be in a lot of trouble all of a sudden. And it's like, whoa, you know, it just seems like, it's almost like wind resistance, you know, you have to go, you know what I mean? Like you have to go really fast to actually get the, you know, the sort of benefit, or get loads and loads of people in to get that great deal. And if you sell out one of those places, you can, you know, you can buy yourself a new set of guitar strings with the money, you know, or whatever. But it's but if you fail, then you can suddenly get stung quite badly, and it's I've got to say, you know, it's more than once that I've walked out of those places feeling that I've been turned over. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Yes, thanks. We've had a wonderful night, and here's your £37.50. Just like, well, thank you. It's been wonderful, and we'll see you again next year. You know, knowing full well that you're just never ever going to talk to them again. But then ultimately, whose fault was it? You know, it's maybe it was my fault. I don't know. But yeah, I have been stung a few times. So it's I don't know. I can't. There's no sort of definitive answer, but I know that there's enough of a jazz scene. I mean, like more so than the maybe, I'm just saying, the flamenco scene. You know, if there was a regular flamenco scene, then it would all be a lot more sort of predictable. You know what I mean?
I know.
And a lot more sort of doable. But you're going to have to deal with these places a lot, which and I guess that means you have to talk about advertising. You know, I guess. Yeah, good luck. It'll be great. I'd come and see you. I'd come and see you. Great. All right. Well, you know, I mean, we don't have to be here for a 2-hour epic, although we have actually been here for an hour and a half. So, unless anyone's got any other business or feels that I've completely missed something, then we could probably just talk about the big one, which is next time. And probably the thing that most people really want to hear about, and maybe haven't had a lot of experience in, which is actually filling in the actual form. And let me tell you, this thing is hellish. You know, I was really, really gobsmacked when I found out what you have to do. A few years ago, I think it also ended in maybe 2015, 2016. We used to have an outfit called Jazz Services, who were like a conduit organization that were funded by the Arts Council, and the forms were much simpler. It was literally like two pages of A4, and which some musicians also, you know, they found quite hard. They found that quite hard. This whole thing is geared up for getting a tour in place and then going to the Arts Council. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing here, and deciding whether you need to go to the Arts Council as well, because it is a hellish form, and if you've got like 5 or 6 dates, it's not worth doing. You know what I mean? It's an awful lot of work. And going back to the Jazz Services thing, that's I think the most amount of money you could get out of them was £2,500. And I don't think I knew anyone who got £2,500, but it was just enough money for you to pay for some petrol and you know, towards the hotels and that sort of thing. So it was doable. You know, you could do it. But now that's gone, and that doesn't exist anymore. So there's I'm not saying the Arts Council is the only place you can get funding, but it's a kind of, it's the number one place. And if we don't apply, then someone else is getting the money, you know. And it's I won't bang on too much about this, but like for instance, during the Cultural Recovery Fund, a lot of that money went to certain places that, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know, that it didn't feel like that money was trickling down, shall we say, into the lives of musicians. But if we apply as musicians, then that money's coming straight to us. And it's not that we're greedy. We just need to, I just think we're the most fundamental, you know, fundamentally important part of the cog, because if we haven't got any musicians, then the whole thing's gone. You know what I mean? So this is why I want to help people get all this sorted out, and yeah, and make some arts council applications. So that's exactly what we're going to move on to next time. And it isn't just going to be me. I've actually invited Elaine along as well, because she's got a very sensible, mature head on her shoulders, and she's very good at the whole sort of money side as well, and she's got a much more sort of pragmatic outlook on filling in those forms than I have. Go on, Nicholas.
May I ask you a question?
Go on.
Because of social distancing, we don't know how that's going to, how long that's going to last and everything like that. One of the big things big areas I'm finding is that there's still loads of interest in music education.
Yep.
And did you ever link any education projects with any of your tours, or you just go out as a performer, or would you be prepared to do that? And does it help the Arts Council application or anything like that?
Yeah, it's I've always tied in educational stuff with the tours. It's something that they love to see, and yeah, I've taught in colleges. I've laid on jazz guitar workshops, and as much as I possibly can, and it's been great, and it can also be really good for business. Quite often the way you work it, is, especially with the gigs, is that you put on the workshop like a couple of hours before the gig, so all those people that come to the workshop, they get, I don't know, like a discount off the gig, so they get the workshop and the gig as well, so that brings in more people too, and it's actually fantastic, because it means like a quite a large percentage, or a measurable percentage of the audience are a bunch of people you just spent a couple of hours with, and you feel like they're on your side already, which is great. But the only word of warning there is that it's absolutely exhausting, because it's, most of the time I would run just like jazz guitar workshops, so it means like, you wake up with a hangover in or in wherever, like Somerset, and then you drive up to Birmingham or wherever. The rest of the band go to the hotel, you go to the gig, you do the workshop, and you're like, you've got about an hour to sort of sort yourself out and get some food, and keep yourself alive, and then suddenly you're on the gig, and it can be really, really exhausting. So it's just yeah, it's just, that's just something that's worth considering. While it's all doable on paper, it can really take it out of you,
Hence once every 2 years.
That's right. Well, look at me, I'm only 18. Oof.
You're lucky, baby. You're lucky.
Yeah. So no, I mean 100% that. Yeah. I mean there are other considerations too, but maybe it's worth saving that till next time, when we'll actually literally have a look at the actual form. We won't just talk about what you're supposed to put in this, but we're going to actually get a form up there, and maybe I might even write a sort of fictitious application, pretend to be someone else, rather than actually make, I think the Arts Council might get a bit funny about me actually showing one of my actual applications, or maybe they won't, I don't know. What the hell, yeah, I probably will do that anyway. But there's no kind of right or wrong way, but it's I've been successful maybe sort of 6 times, so it's I think I've, if I can show anyone anything that's going to be successful, then I'll do it.
My organisation, we've hired professional writers and failed.
Right. Yes.
And fortunately, the education projects we've done, those educational authorities, along with the concerts we've done, they've actually gone out and found the money. Yeah. But we've applied through them. We've never applied ourselves, purely because we were told by the Arts Council not to apply through ourselves, but applied through education establishments, and didn't work. So that's what we're looking at doing now, is doing it ourselves and taking it out.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, like I say, it's there's no kind of right or wrong way, and it's we're all aware now, aren't we, that there are professional writers. So I call them professional form filler-inners, but I'm not sure if that's the that's the actual term, but they do exist. And these people work in different ways. That they'll either set a flat fee, which a lot of them do now because it's quite hard to succeed. So if they don't set a flat fee, then if they keep failing, then they just end up with no money. Or others will charge a percentage. And well, I mean, I'm not sure what happens in other people's lives, but that's the way that I've heard that they sort of tend to work. And I have used one in the past. It wasn't for my stuff actually, but it was when I used to run a festival, and I didn't have time. When you're running something like that, you just don't have time. I was like, oh God, all right, yeah, good luck. And then he asked me for a bit of information and blow me down. He was successful, and it was great. So I'm not saying it's a them and us situation with the professional writers, but ultimately we are in direct competition with them, because everybody is applying for the same money. So it's and I wonder if when push comes to shove, if they know who the professional writers are. You might be able to recognize this style or the bullet points or whatever, or maybe some copy and pasted stuff.
It all depends on how much you're actually applying for.
Yes,
because some of the projects we applied for were less than the £15,000.
Yeah,
small project, and those could be audited by anybody.
Yes.
It's only when it's over
15,000
that actually is audited by a musician.
Yes.
And then it depends all on their agents as well, that they have throughout the country, who read these projects as to what their preference is. So
yes, definitely. That's actually a really good point to bring up. That just in case you didn't catch that, there's a kind of below 15,000 application, and then there's an above 15,000, and there are more higher than that as well. So as well as them being more involved, I mean the over 15,000 is very involved. Not as much as you might think, but yes, there's different ways of sort of auditing and also reporting on your activity. It's less of a kind of quick run through what you did. It's a very kind of official document, which is something to consider. But also the way this directly affects your gigs, if you're putting those in the book. If you're applying for below 15,000, then you have there's a 6-week turnaround. They have to tell you within 6 weeks. But if it's over 15,000, it has to be 12 weeks. So suddenly you've got it's 3 months. So you've really got to start thinking about when you're going to organize your tour, and you'll be surprised how quickly you can, how you can run out of time.
Yeah.
And what you have to factor in there too is that you might have to resubmit. Bear in mind that there is no appeal process. That there isn't a thing, just because you're really upset that you didn't get the money, you can't call up the arts council and say, but I really think I should get it. There's no point, because they are not going to give it to you. You literally have to resubmit, and if it's a plus 15,000, that means another 3 months, and so you have to factor that in, which can be absolutely crushing, because, for instance, some venues don't even open the diary until it's 4 months before the gig.
Yeah.
So, and I have gone kind of all in, in the past, and that was the big one actually, and that was the reason it was so big, that I didn't leave any time for a second submission, because I wanted to get those last ones that you could only get in the book, because it was so close. And luckily I did actually get the money that time, but I'm not sure if I'd be that foolish again, because it was really stressful, not good for the old heart. So I should just say, at the moment, because of the lack of staffing, because of the pandemic, it's a 10-week turnaround for sub 15. Thank you for finishing my sentence. No, I was just being stupid. No, I couldn't think what I was talking about. It's so 10 weeks at the moment, but I think that's going to drop again soon, because everyone's going back to work.
Will you cover the different funds as well, like the artist development fund that they've got, as well as the?
I don't have any experience in that. I know it's a thing, but I've never done one. You know, it's this is pretty much exclusively sort of touring. I have had a look at it, but I've never actually made an application. And I have had people get in touch with me saying, "Oh, look, I'm doing this artist development thing. Will you be my teacher?" It's like, "Oh, well, yeah, of course." I didn't realize that was a kind of thing, but yeah, a lot of people are talking about that at the moment.
Yeah, I think they can do it for albums. I think you can do it for tours as well, because you can say artist development and develop an audience.
Great.
I think there's a bit of there. So sorry.
We'll be keeping you up, Esther.
Sorry, I can hold you guys. Sorry, I am falling asleep.
No. Okay.
I just think it's just a bit whacked out. Sorry.
No. It's absolutely fine. I reckon that's probably a good place to leave it before Esther falls asleep. Well, look,
I'll just interrupt you, because actually we need to know the date. The next session is going to be the
20th
of July, of course, the last Tuesday. Don't forget, if you some people have missed out on the email connections because they haven't got info@thejazzfix.com in their address book. If you do, sometimes it will go to your junk mail. So make sure you've got that in there for the next one. That is the 27th of July. And what I must tell you about, before the 27th of July, that week prior, running up to that, Nigel is actually going to be teaching in Brentwood.
Oh, yes.
With our Summer Jazz Fix course. And we still have spaces, unbelievably, for guitar players. So if you know anyone, you teach guitar players, or you know anyone that would like to come, it's a great place, great venue. You've done it once before, Nigel. It's a lovely place, isn't it, there at Brentwood?
Yeah, it's great.
And we've got 4 days of teaching. We've got Nigel, we've got Steve Fishwick, Derek Nash, Lily Dior, Jeff Gascoigne, Dave Newton. So it's an amazing lineup with Sebastian Ducrom too. So please put the word about, because we've still got some spaces. Because of the COVID, we've had a little bit of trouble recruiting this time. Normally we're sold out, but so there still are spaces, and please come along to that. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you. I know it was a football night and it was an extreme pullover, but we had a great result in that respect. And thanks, Nigel, for.
That's all right. I'm sorry, I totally forgot to have a break.
You did.
I'm sorry about that.
No, you're doing great guns. I didn't dare interrupt.
I would have had a glass of wine.
Oh,
dear. Never mind.
So if you're playing a great solo and I'll be shouting, "Get on with it! Get on with it! Come on, get onto the chord bit."
Yes. Okay.
But it's been great, and of course I look forward to the next session, which is going to be number 3 out of the 4 sessions.
It's the big one. It's the Arts Council form. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the one that if you've not filled out an Arts Council form, or you know anyone that's thinking about it, then please spread the word. And don't forget, you can catch up with these sessions if you've missed out on the jazzfix.com website.
Oh, maybe the last thing. I hate saying this, but if you feel that this has really helped you out, I mean, maybe not even tonight, but in the future, and you go, you know what, I'm really pleased that I did what that guy said, and then I am open for donations, and so I think that where's that going to be shared? It's on the website.
It came with the email.
All right. Oh, great. All right. Thanks. So, but don't worry. If you think it was all rubbish, then don't worry about it.
You give us money if it's rubbish.
I'm only going to spend it on booze, So
when England win the European Cup, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. Brilliant.
Great. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
All right.
We'll see you on the next session.
Great. Thank you so much for. Yeah.
Great
to see you all.
Unmute yourselves and thank Nigel personally.
Thank you very much, Nigel.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's great to see you again.
Cheers, Nigel.
All right.
Actually, could somebody...
I stayed to the end.
You stuck it out. Well done, Valerie. All right. Two 2-0, eh? Unbelievable.